football, hook 'em, baby.
Let's go. Make your move, cuz.
Oh, he hitting it too hard. You know he don't know how to play.
He think everything.
Yeah, he just hitting it hard. You know he can't play.
Everything in the camera tray, though.
That's facts.
Sometimes you gotta know how to zone block that thing, finesse it. Huh? Oh, you heard it? What is that? I'm cheating. Coach A's football. Ain't nothing like going in another man's home and going in his refrigerator. You win some, you lose some, baby. Let me tell you something, man. Got big time tackle right here. PKay Kirkland right here, Texas Longhorns. Coach A's football. I'm an old head, baby. I put you to sleep. Everybody asked you to be 65, coach. Here with Payton Kirkland, aka PKay, one of the big time offensive linemen out of Orlando, Florida, that is committed to the University of Texas. PKay, talk to me, baby. What's going on?
What's good, coach?
I'm good, man. So we here today, man. We in Orlando, Florida. Just finished your official visit up there to Texas, man. You signed on the dotted line. You getting ready to head on out to the University of Texas, man. How you feel about that?
I mean, I couldn't be in a better situation, you know. The staff, the family up there, you know, everything's pretty much set out for me, and getting up there early really helps my chances of playing early.
Got you. So you are early enrollee?
Yes, sir.
All right. So when are you heading on out?
Well, I move in January 5th, and I come January 8th after the All-American Bowl.
Great, man. So look, that's perfect, man. So you are in the All-American Bowl?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So you excited about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's going to be fun, you know, great competition, great guys playing in the game. Got a couple friends playing too.
Right now, big 6'7", 330-pound offensive tackle. Am I correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. Talk to us, man. Everybody wants to know. They see you walk around town. Of course, you stand out. Everybody knows that you're a football player. But who is Payton Kirkland?
Well, on and off the field, you know, I say I'm a true leader, you know, family person. You know, I love just being around my family, taking care of others, and I'm a true giver.
Talking about giving, why is that important to you, and why is that kind of a staple of the way you live your life?
You know, so when it comes down to giving, you know, giving when you don't have something, you know, that leads to a greater blessing, and, you know, always pouring back into the community that poured into me, and just taking care of others and doing community service and teaching kids certain things, all of that, you know, it's just in my character. So it's something that happens naturally for me. It's not something I try to go out of my way and do.
I got you. So when you give back to the community, what kind of things do you do? I know you say out to the community. Are you part of any programs or any service programs?
Feeding our friends without homes. You know, we don't call people homeless. We just say our friends without homes. And, you know, I go out and do community service that way. I go talk to kids at camps. Have like literally leadership groups between kids younger than me and kids my age sometimes at school. And I train kids as well, so.
On the gridiron, we know that you're out there mauling people left and right. I've seen it on Friday nights. I've done some of your games and had a chance to see it firsthand. But what does PKay do off the field where he gets the time to wind down a little bit and become just Payton Kirkland?
Well, cooking, just relaxing, talking to my mom. Listening to music is kind of like where I'm really at home. You know, I really do confide in music, and I just let it wind me down and relax that way.
All right, so you said cooking, right?
Yes, sir.
I can tell you've been eating, my man,
yeah.
But it looked good. I love it. So with that being said, what's your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish to make is probably I call it a Bobby roll. You know, I named it
the Bobby roll?
Yeah, I named it after my sister. You kind of like, you get brioche buns, heavy whipping cream, an egg, vanilla extract, and cinnamon, and you roll it up in there, and you kind of cook it like French toast, and then you coat it with cinnamon sugar, and make it with brunch.
That's how you make an offensive tackle. I don't know about no Bobby roll. You just call it the offensive tackle roll. That's how you get 6'7" around here. But that's interesting, man. So do you cook other dishes, or that's just kind of your forte right there?
I cook everything. Anything, you know, I already know how to make it. You know, I just kind of sat up under my mom and my grandma and my uncles and just watching how they all cook, you know, watching my uncles on the grill, watching my mom in the kitchen. I just sit down and watch.
All right, now, look, Coach got to taste that Bobby roll. You got me?
I got you for real.
All right, I'm going to test it. I'm going to taste it too. If it ain't good,
you're not going to be disappointed, trust me.
All right, you talked about music as a way of relaxing off the field. If I go into your phone right now and press play, what's coming out of that speaker?
Brent Fires, most likely. You know, I don't really listen to a lot of hype music and all that, you know. at certain times I do, depends on what I'm doing, but it's real mellow and it just keeps me calm and all of that.
Now, I'm a Tupac and Biggie fan, all right? And I'm going to tell you like this. That's your calm music.
Right.
What's your hype music?
My hype music, probably Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and you know, before the games, I listen to like a lot of alternative stuff like Mac DeMarco, Vacations, Coldplay, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some stuff that people usually wouldn't listen to at any time of the day.
A lot of guys I've come to realize over this, man, and offensive linemen especially, you think you see these big guys and they play this real hard music, but I've come to realize they like alternative music, softer music, kind of calming music, man. Right. Is that, as they say, the music calm the savage beast right before the storm?
Yeah, I mean, everything in the game kind of happens in like slow motion, so I kind of see it like poetry or a slow song, you know. So like sometimes I throw a little Donnell Jones in my pregame playlist, and that's just how things feel to me out there, you know. Kind of like poetry and emotion playing offensive line. So
Donnell Jones, boy. Okay, you went back. That's good, man. Let's get into the family aspect of it. I know your mom is she's very influential in your life. You look up to her a lot. Talk to me about your mother and her role just in your life as a football player as well as her son.
Well, you know, I kind of look to my mom for a lot of guidance. You know, she's a very strong person. I've seen her go through hell and back, you know, seen her at the toughest times, seen her at her best times, you know. Mm-hmm. Me and my mom live together alone, you know, so I see everything, I hear everything, I know everything that goes on. So for someone to be going through all of that and still wake up every day and, you know, keep it pushing it's a true testament to her spirit and her fight. So it's kind of where I pick up on some of my mannerisms that I show daily from.
And it shows that she doesn't have quit in her, right? Just like you, right? If you're on the field, sometimes things go wrong, but you got to come back that next play and continue on, right? You can't just take your ball and go home, for lack of a better term. That's interesting to say that. There are a lot of strong mothers out here that's raising young men, and for you to look up to her in that light, that's huge. And that goes to show you what you will become and what you can do as you become a father later on in life. As you talked about your mom and some of these struggles, what is it that, if you had a message to your mom right now, what would you like to say to her?
Thank you, you know, for everything, for never giving up on me and never giving up on us, you know, because she easily could have just moved us back to Chicago because nothing's been easy for us down here. Now,
Chicago, that's interesting you bring that up. You came from Chicago. When did you move to Florida?
Around 7th grade.
7th grade. So what was Chicago like? We hear a lot of stuff about Chicago, the gang life and all of that kind of stuff. What was Chicago like in 7th grade? You're old enough to really remember.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it gets crazy out there, and it's kind of like a couple of bad habits that you wouldn't be used to here, you know, ducking down your head when you're driving through certain areas. Like, yeah, that's a part of it, but in all honesty, the city, as long as you mind your business, you should be fine. You know, it's not as bad as people think, and it's a beautiful city. So
being here in Orlando since 7th grade, you've been here pretty much, I guess you could call this home. How do you enjoy being down here in Florida? Like I say, we in December right now, and you got on shorts, my man. That's not happening in the shop.
Yeah, I mean, in Chicago, when it hits about 50 degrees, we start wearing shorts. So it gets too hot down here for my liking. You know, it kind of feels like somebody's standing on your chest during the summertime and springtime. And I don't really like the weather down here. But, you know, constant sunlight, yeah, because we've gone like 100 days without seeing the sun in Chicago before. So it's just complete cloud coverage.
So now that we look at yourself, we already know your mom is very important to you. Besides your mother, who else do you look to for advice or comfort or just kicking it?
So personally, I look up to my pastor for that. You know, Jerry Owens. You know, I go to Joshua Generations Outreach Church in Pine Hills, and you know, I can always come to him about anything. To be honest, you know, and whether it's in the church or outside the church, he's always available 24/7. So I can text him any time of the day, he'll respond. So that's kind of the person that I confide in. You know, I tell him a lot, and he gives me a lot of guidance when it comes down to certain decisions that I have to make.
So you bring up church and you bring up your pastor. Faith means a lot to you, apparently. What does that mean going through these new endeavors so far as heading out to Austin, Texas here, getting ready to leave your mom, you know, being a grown man on your own, have to now make your own decisions. She's not there to wake you up, make sure you're on time.
Right. So the way I try to follow my life and the way I try to live my life is following Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. So that kind of even plays into my decision with going to Texas. You know, I didn't trust my own knowledge. I didn't trust anybody else's knowledge. I only trusted the Lord. So, you know, you can't be led wrong. You know, everything in life isn't going to just go smooth sailing. You know, I don't expect me to get to a certain point and it just is a smooth ride going up. You know, there's going to be ups and downs. There's times you're going to fail. There's times you're going to feel like there's no way out or feel like there's no possible way that you can achieve your goals. But regardless of what you think or how your path is getting there, if you trust God, you'll make it.
All right, like I said, the 6'7", 345-pound offensive tackle here. When did you start playing football?
So I played a year in Little League, 1 year, and I didn't like it, you know, because I played basketball my entire life. Being in Chicago, that's kind of like what everybody does. Nobody's really thinking about playing football up there. So
it had to be the unlimited, though.
Yeah.
It was okay. I was gonna say, I know you ain't make the weight on that one.
Nah. So I was playing tight end, and I didn't really like it. You know, I was getting my little tail smacked and all that, and I was bigger than everybody else, but I didn't really like being touched. And then I got to high school, and I was at West Orange, and my mom said, "All right, I gotta go to work. You better find something to do after school until 5 o'clock." So I was sitting down, and D. Brown, he's running back coach at Campbell now. He came up to me and said, "Here's some pads. You playing football this year?" And mind you, I didn't want to play at all, and I ended up fourth string D tackle starting out my freshman year, and then I worked my way up, and a lot of people got injured, so I ended up switching from D tackle to left tackle because a bunch of seniors got injured.
So you come here from Chicago, go to middle school. When you get to high school, you start off at West Orange.
Right.
All right, and Coach Brown said, "Hey man, you're big behind finna get these pads on right now."
Right.
And you didn't necessarily like it, right? You know, it's a lot going on. And to your credit, Chicago is basketball, right? Florida is football. These guys been playing since they 5, 6 years old, right?
Exactly.
So they kind of had an advantage on you when it comes to the game itself, right?
Yeah.
All right, so when you transfer to Dr. Phillips, you walk in the halls there. You weren't going to play football or no? You were like, nah.
I went for basketball.
You went out for basketball. So who found you and said, "Hey man, this guy need to be on the gridiron instead of the hardwood"?
Coach Wells.
Coach Wells?
As soon as he heard that I was coming over, my first day on campus, he told me, he said, "I'm not only playing basketball when I'm here." I was like, all right, I'll play. You know, I need something to do during
Till 5 o'clock, like mom
right.
say, right?
So I started playing, and well, at this point it's the off season and playing basketball and all of that, and then I was playing basketball in the gym, and then Arizona State's coach walked in the gym with Coach Wells, and they see me playing. They stopped the practice. They pulled me out, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm offering you a scholarship for basketball," and he was like, "No, football." And then that's kind of how things just started rolling for me. And I was like, all right.
So before you even played it down at Dr. Phillips, you already received a Power 5 offer from Arizona State.
Yeah.
That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, size matters. So you go in, like I said, you haven't played it down. They didn't know what you could do actually on the field. Arizona State coach happens to see you in the basketball gym, say, "Hey, I want to offer this guy a scholarship." When did the next offer start to come rolling in where you're like, okay, well, wait a minute, this might be the real deal?
So I got my first offer January 28th, 2020. And then around March, that's when COVID hit. So I didn't get an offer at all until April. And, you know, everybody was just sitting at the house. There was no camps, nothing. And the coaches was just sitting there evaluating people. And, you know, I had a little bit of freshman tape. I had a couple minutes of tape, and I was about 6'5", 300 something. So my next offer was South Carolina on April 30th, 2020. That I ended up picking up like 5 or 6 offers leading up to June. And then once June hit, I went to the underclassmen camp for Under Armour, and I left the camp with like 25 offers. So,
and this is starting to your sophomore year.
Yeah, this summer going into sophomore year.
So now let's talk about COVID. So COVID comes, we know the world shut down pretty much, right? Football was like, it's kind of funny out there. How did you handle that? Like I say, pretty much being a new football player, going into a COVID season with a lot of restrictions. How did you find your way and navigate your way through the football field?
Well, I was hungry, so I was training from the academy, and whenever we was able to get a session in, I hated it at first, but everybody, I was the only offensive lineman coming out there, and I was really hungry for it. Going against a lot of D1 guys, and I had one offer, and everybody around me had 10, 15, 20, and I was kind of starting to question myself. And then I just ended up I stopped looking at what everybody else was doing, what everybody else had, and only start focusing on myself. So COVID kind of benefited me because at the end of the summer, I had about 45 offers going into my sophomore year.
And again, you hadn't even played it down.
Right.
Right? Well, so far as on a varsity level, I mean.
Well, not for Dr. Phillips. I played varsity at West Orange.
Okay, so even though you were still new to it, they had you on varsity.
Yeah, they had me at 4th string, and then I came up starting left tackle about like week 5.
All right. So now, like you say, 45 offers. You're getting ready to go out there with Dr. Phillips. Everybody knows that program here in Central Florida. Been around for a long time. Coach Wells has been there for a long time, played there, has done a great job, got a state championship there and everything. As technique goes along, as you start to compete, and we know it's good talent here, what was the hardest thing you had to learn when you were on the field?
Controlling my emotions. And that's something I still work on today. I credit it to my offensive line coach, Dr. Phillips, Adam Sitter. He coached at Florida, Kansas, and a few other places. He coached with the Patriots, and he kind of taught me all the techniques I know and everything. And, once I started getting the hang of that, the on-field technique was fine. It was just mental toughness and all of that. So being out there every time something went wrong, I kind of would lash out on the people around me, and I wouldn't know how to handle adversity.
So that's where you go back to your faith, right?
Right.
What's their quote again, Jeremiah?
29:11.
29:11. So therefore, that's where you have to kind of hang on to your faith in sometimes, because one thing about football, it's never going to go right 100% of the time, right? There's going to be ups and downs, just like you talked about earlier. There's going to be pitfalls, there's going to be triumphs, there's going to be a bunch of things going on. But that's the beauty of this game. You don't just get one down, right?
Right.
You get a bunch of downs. As long as your positives outweigh the negatives, you pretty much should win the ball game, right?
Yes, sir.
So through that sophomore season coming up, I know you had some adversity, as well as maybe not making all the plays you wanted to and had to get your emotions in check. What other adversity did you face during that season?
Well, being that we only had a few games, we weren't really able to mesh well as a team. And, I had a great sophomore season. I emerged as a top 45 recruit in the country my sophomore year and number 5 offensive tackle in the 2023 cycle. And then we got down to Miami. We played Miami Palmetto, and we was playing Jason Marshall, Corey Collier, and
Brashard Smith.
Brashard, Leonard Taylor. We played a crazy defense, and then we kind of had a wake-up call that, we could really win the game. The final score was like 7-3, and that was kind of the end of the season. We only played 7 games. We was 5-2, and that's kind of how that ended. And then right after the season, I decided it was good to go to a couple camps maybe, and so I went to a camp down at IMG, and I went down there and I broke my ankle because somebody got thrown into me. And I wasn't even in the rep. I was just standing there for a look, and then somebody got thrown into me, and I broke my ankle. I was like, dang, why is God doing this to me? Why me? Why right now when I'm just starting to, pick up on it and get good at it and everything. And I kind of quickly realized that I was becoming a little bit arrogant, so God sat me down and showed me what I truly was, missing out on.
Yeah, and he'll do that, right? He'll do that. As the saying goes, be careful what you ask for, he'll give it to you. But he also what? As easy he giveth, he taketh away.
Yes.
And sometimes if we're not obedient, that will definitely happen. He'll sit you down and make you think about it.
Right.
So I'm glad you had a chance to realize that. In your junior year, your ankle is now healed at this point.
Yeah, but I had, so my ankle healed about May-ish. And then I went up to Georgia for another camp, thinking, yeah, I'm good now. I'm ready to go. I get up to Georgia and I blow up my knee on patella subluxation, kneecap over here, partially torn meniscus and all of that. And then I was why as soon as I get back I get hurt again, So it made me really question myself, did I really want to play, And my mental health was, a little bit down at that time, and kind of just stayed faithful throughout that entire process, and I ended up being cleared the day before my first game of my junior season.
All right, and you bring up mental health, which is a big thing in society today, right? A lot of people see athletes and don't think about mental health. A lot of people see athletes as warriors, right? We don't have a soft side. We don't have a downside. When you went through the mental health, and I can guarantee there's probably a little depression in there, because think about it. You're getting all these offers, you're getting all the accolades, you're getting all this hype, all this notoriety, and then it's just wiped away from you.
Right.
Then you get that solved, then you get all this hype, it's going again, and then it's wiped away from you. How and or who or where did you go to in order to kind of get through that mental downside during those times?
Faith, just constantly asking what I need to do to get back, and what it took was to stop being so invested in self. I think nowadays a lot of people, especially being in this recruitment process, we get too over infatuated with ourselves and our accolades and what we have going on in rankings and stuff. Because I was so infatuated with my ranking, like 45, 86, 125, 205, 330, 400, 517, what I'm sitting at now. At a certain point, I stopped paying attention to it because all of that doesn't register with me and it doesn't matter at a certain point. So having that time off really made me appreciate, the position that I was in, rather than take it for granted and just think, oh, like I'm this and I'm that, and I'm better than that and I'm better than him. And, I kind of just learned to focus on bettering myself rather than being infatuated with who I am and what I have.
And that's important, right? That's important. Let's talk about your high school days, right? Your senior years coming up. The season maybe didn't go as you planned, right? In that sense, it was a little tough for Dr. Phillips this year. Took some tough losses, but I know Coach Wells will definitely get that program back on track to where it was. And football goes in cycles as well. Coach Wells being your coach, what is one of the biggest things that he has told you that will resonate with you or stick with you for the remainder of your life?
It's time to be a man. He told me that at the start of my senior season. I had a young team this year, a lot of underclassmen, and I mean, the way the game works is a team will go from losing games by a lot to losing games by a little to starting to pull those games out and win those games. So we were in the stage of losing those games by a little, by one or two mistakes, and having to take those losses to the chin. And everybody, after loss, everybody looks at me to see how I'm acting, see how I'm moving, and I didn't handle myself correctly at certain times, but I was just big on bouncing back this season because Coach Wells kind of helped me grow up. He kind of taught me the ins and outs of being a man because he was the father figure in my life these last 4 years.
All right, the prospect now. We already heard that you had 80-something plus offers, and you narrowed it down to your top 5. How did those schools and which schools made it to the top 5, and how did they get there?
So, firstly, Oregon was going to be in my top 5, but then Mario Cristobal and Coach Mirabal, they went down to Miami, so I threw Miami in there. Alabama had just offered a couple months prior, so I threw Alabama in there too because I liked the offensive line coach. Michigan State was kind of the most consistent school throughout my recruitment, and I really did like Coach Tucker. Oklahoma, they were, one of the schools that offered me really early, and I was always in contact with them, and I never really visited. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, Florida, Billy Napier and staff had just got there, and, I told them, like, it was going to take a lot for me to consider, but, they ended up putting in a lot of work for it and showed that they could really turn the program for better, from how Mullen had it. So I threw those guys in there as well.
So in those top 5, like you said, that's who they were. Who was leading right there before the whole Texas thing happens? Who was leading out of those top 5? Because I know you said Oregon was there, but then Coach Cristobal and Coach Mirabal leave and go to Miami.
Yeah, it was Miami probably was leading the majority of the time.
So now it comes to commitment time, right?
Right.
I know that you had your commitment day set up. You had a venue set up, and it was exciting. Man, it was great. And I know you made a commitment on 247 Sports. You did your commitment there with your mom and everything on the video. I have to say this, just the elephant in the room. Texas wasn't in the top 5. So the question is, and again, the internet went nuts about this, right? Everybody was, what's going on, and blah, 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 blah. How does Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns slide in, become number 1 over your top 5?
So Coach Sark and Coach Flood, offensive line coach at Texas, were recruiting me at Alabama my freshman year, sophomore year, and then they went to Texas summer going into my junior year. And every time I would try to get to Texas, something went wrong. I was about to go to Texas when I got hurt at Georgia. Couldn't go anymore. I thought I needed surgery. And then I tried to officially visit, but I had 4 OVs and a family reunion all in 4 weeks. And then things weren't working out, you know. And they were always the most consistent with me, and I would hop on Zoom meetings with them every week, even though I wasn't considering them, and they knew that. And you know, they was always full court press on me, and you know, they were the staff that was real for me when I was down, and they kept in communication with me when nobody else did. And leading up to my commitment day, I was going to Miami, and then on the 20th, 3 days before my commitment, I called Coach Cristobal, just checking in, tapping in with him, and he asked me if I was sure and all of that, and you know, he said a couple things, and you know, hung up the phone, and I prayed, and I was praying, and out of nowhere, I just started crying like crazy, you know, because usually leading up to your commitment, it should be like a bright thing, you're real happy about it, you know, you're real happy about your decision, but you know, it was kind of like a dark cloud following me everywhere I went. And then I was praying, and my mom ran in my room, and I wasn't saying nothing to her, and at a certain point, I just stood up. I said, "Mom, call Coach Flood." And I don't know why. I said call Coach Flood. And then when he was on the phone, I just said, "Coach, I'm coming."
Out of the blue, right? So talk to Coach Cristobal. Miami was in the league. You had a conversation. You hung up the phone. You started praying, and the Spirit came over you, right?
Right.
And this happens, man. A lot of people don't realize you guys are 17, 18-year-old young men, right? I look at you as kids. And it's a big pressure. It's a lot. This is, you know, as they say, the 40-year deal. I always tell people, this is the biggest decision you're going to make in your life thus far. You didn't even get a chance to pick your own name.
Right.
Right? So it's a lot of pressure on you, especially with social media, these recruiting outlets, the reporters are relentless, you know, everything else. So it's a lot of pressure that you guys receive. And like you say, you prayed about it, and the word Coach Flood came out your mouth, huh?
Yeah, you know. So everything that I've gone through kind of circles back to Jeremiah 29:11. You know, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. I walked by faith instead of by sight. You know, my entire process, though, leading up to my commitment day, those last few months was really stressful. You know, it's kind of like a divide in the house. My mom liked a certain place, I liked a different place. And I kept fighting it, you know, and then coincidentally, my OV to Texas was canceled. My visit to Texas earlier was canceled. They were the only school talking to me when I got hurt. Always on Zooms with them. I always wanted to live in Austin, Texas. I really didn't remember that the school was in Austin until I committed there. Always planning to move to Austin, Texas after I finished playing ball, you know. So things just kind of worked out that way, you know, and God works in mysterious ways. And I finally just trusted God, and, you know, as soon as I told Coach Flood I'm committed, I couldn't do nothing but smile. It was just like, I did it. You know, it was, you know, that cloud lifted off of me, and it was surreal, to be honest. And when I announced on July 23rd, it was just like the whole room got brighter when I said the University of Texas.
I love it, man. And now, what did Coach Flood say when you said, "Coach, I'm coming"? I know he was like,
"You playing, right?" He said Christmas came early, and I made his entire vacation 10 times better.
That's awesome. Now, did you have a chance to talk to Coach Sarkisian?
Yeah, I talked to Coach Sark immediately after. And mind you, that was the day that I was supposed to be going on 2 for 7 and saying I was going to Miami. I went on there, and I said I'm going to the University of Texas. And then they were in complete shock. So,
I mean, you shocked the world, bro. I'm telling you, you shocked the world. No one saw this coming. You know, you had put your top 5 out in your commitment video. You know, you're throwing out the different cards and different things like that. And like I say, the Longhorns pop up, and it happens. I've seen some crazier things in recruiting through my years of coaching, but I have to say you did shock the world. A few days later, you actually get a chance to go to Texas.
Right.
How was that? When you get off the plane, talk to me.
It was like a spirit came over me, like, yeah, this is the right spot for you. You know, everything was just perfect. You know, I can't really describe it in words how it felt. You know, it was kind of a surreal feeling, and everything was perfect about the city. Everything was correct about the school. You know, it was the best situation possible for me to walk into throughout this process.
Now, how about your mom? I know she was sitting right beside you when you made that announcement. How does she feel about it, and how does she like the school within itself?
Yeah, I mean, well, the day I decided I was going to Texas, we were still both in shock. Like, and it kind of looked awkward on the video that 247 posted because like we had just decided 20 minutes ago that I was going to Texas, and we were still like in shock about it. And then when we got there, she felt the exact same way. Like she was like, "Yeah, these are the people. This is the best place for you. You know, the right type of people, the right type of men, the right balance in the rooms, and the right balance in the staff. You know, it was just for both of us. You know, we just both felt like it was the best situation for me to walk into."
All right, let's talk about social media and the backlash that came from this. A lot of people attacked you, right?
Yeah.
They call you a troll. They call you this. They call you that. And as I sit in this interview and I talk to you about it, I'm listening to the kind of person that you are. I saw some back and forth that you had on Twitter with fans and so forth. And on one of my shows, I actually kind of just said something open to you. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I watched it.
And one of my message to you was, that's a battle you as a player will never win. So Payton Kirkland, if you're listening, I'm going to give you some advice from coach to player. You are now in the limelight of life, all right? You are in the sports and entertainment world. This is not, you're not on the corner, you're not on the block. You are talking to people that hide behind avatars and everything else. You can't respond to all of that foolishness. I'm begging you as a coach to a player, and I know some people may have said this to you, but I'm going to say it again. Put the phone down. Don't let all the talk. Don't worry about the rankings. You may feel that you're better, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But don't feel like you got to, a troll is a new word for me, but to troll these guys. I understand you want to have fun, but it does nothing for your career. I can tell you that. It only hurts your career. You understand me? It does nothing to enhance your career. And recently, I haven't seen anything like that from them. Of course, I know you like your social media, right? I get it. But what did you learn through that experience of going back and forth with the quote unquote fanatics and you being a player and a prospect? What was that like? How did you get to that point? And how did you kind of come out of it?
So, I had to kind of, grow up a little bit, The recruitment process, I had to grow up in so many different ways. And people think that you don't see it. When they comment stuff, when they send you messages, they send you death threats, they tell you they hope you tear your ACL in your senior season. They think you don't see that. But in all honesty, we're 16, 17, 18, and we're going to read our messages that we get. But, I watched the message that you had to me, and, it was kind of like, all right, I have no choice now. It's kind of God telling me right now, like, tighten up. So I kind of just stopped paying attention to it. I use it as fuel rather than, putting out the fire.
I love it. And that's how you're supposed to look at it, man, because you're never going to make 100% of the people happy 100% of the time. I don't care what you do, right? You go to Texas, these people are mad. You would have went to Miami, these people would have been mad. It's never going to be right. And like I said in that message was, these people are going to go on about their lives. And one thing about football, as you talked about earlier, you're going to make a mistake. And when you make that mistake, that's actually fueling their fire to come and attack you. You can't battle the world. These people hide behind avatars, hide behind the keyboard. Your face is up there front and center. So I'm glad you had a chance to really learn from that experience. And as you go to Texas, things are going to go great, but there's going to be some bumps in the road, as you said. And God willing, you go to the next level. Things are going to be great, and there are going to be some bumps in the road as well.
Yes, sir.
As long as you don't have on that person's color, they're going to be mad at you. I don't care what you do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You can save a baby kitten out of a tree. They're going to be like, they don't like the way you touch the cat.
Right.
So you're never going to be right in these situations. So I'm glad you had an opportunity to learn from that. All right, so now the Longhorns, they got you. You've inked the deal. You're going to head there in January. Let the Texas Longhorn Nation know what kind of player they're getting out of Payton, a.k.a. PKay Kirkland.
Well, tenacity. I'm bringing the attitude with me. I'm bringing a different level to play with me. You know, everything sometimes seems a little lax, but I'm bringing that dog out this program.